Welcome to a demonstration of using RenderRocket's Mission Control interface to do your 3D rendering in the cloud. The first thing you do is to register for an account. So I will click Sign Up, and I'll enter my information here, first name, last name, email, phone number, and time zone. Then I'll create a username and password that will let me log into the site. And then I'll create an account name. So an account name is a company organizational name that will represent the account, and then my username and password is what I'll use to log into that account. This is distinct because we were able to invite other people to join an account, and therefore you have multiple people using their own username and passwords, but all sharing one account so that you can collaborate on projects together. Alright, so I'm going to go and log in with an account that I've already created. So use my username, which is rpdemo, and my password. And when I log in, I get to this Mission Control dashboard for my account, Acme Graphics Studio. And the dashboard is where you'll be able to get a quick view of everything that's going on in your account. So you'll see all the renders that are running, and currently I have one render here that you'll see a status is rendering. It was updated 58 minutes ago, and here's my frame information as far as total running, done, queued, held, and failed frames, and an overall progress bar. You'll also see some announcements, and we'll use that announcement area to tell you about upcoming scheduled maintenance or any new releases of plugins or any other features that we've put onto the system to keep you posted. And on the right, you'll see a status bar that will give you overall information on your jobs, number of jobs running, number of frames running, and credit balance, which we'll go into a little bit later. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and get a project set up for rendering. So what we're going to do is click on the projects link here in the navigation. And we're going to create a project. So a project can be, consider it like a collection of your source files and a collection of output files for whatever it is that you're doing. Some customers will use projects to represent just a single shot that they're going to be doing. We have customers that have done entire features within the context of a project. So somewhere in there is what makes the most sense for your workflow. Feel free to contact us if you need assistance in figuring it out what might be the best way to use projects for you. But in this case, we're going to create a project and then upload a few scenes to render some demonstrations. So we'll create a my demonstration render project, my demonstration render, and we can set the processor type for it. So for most of the software we support, we have 32 and 64-bit versions installed. Choose whichever one is most appropriate for your workflow. We can also specify who has access to this project from my account. I only have one other person, Tracy Farrar, on this account, so I can choose to add her here or not. And this is how I can manage security. If I don't want certain people to have access to certain projects, this is how I would do it. So I'll click Save. My new project is created right away. I can then from my drop down select it. The next step is to get source files uploaded. So I can do that two ways, either through web uploading and through FTP. I'll show you the web upload method first. You basically click Upload, click the button to select your files, and you get a list of them. You browse to what you want to upload, and then you basically just click Open, and they'll be transferred. So Web Uploader is a very quick and easy way to get your files transferred. If you have a lot of files, or if you have some larger files, FTP is usually a better way to do it, so I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to close this one. Go back to my FTP program here. If I go to ftp.renderrocket.com and I use the same username and password that I used on the website and click Connect, you can use any FTP program of your choice. I'm using Transmit here on the Macintosh, but any FTP program will work. I will see the Acme Graphics Studio account that I am logged into, and I also will see my projects. So here are all the projects that I have under my account. You'll see that we're going to refresh here so that we get the latest list. Our project was called My Demonstration Render, and here it is. I'll go into that project. You'll see that there's some important directories here. Packages, once a render is launched on Mission Control and done, it will automatically be packaged into a zip or RAR file depending on your preferences, and those will be put in the packages directory. You will also have access to the render directory, and this is the actual render output directory where your files will go while they're being rendered. And source is where your source files go. So in this case, I did upload a few files through the website, to the web uploader. You'll see that they're here. And then I can go in and use FTP to put my other files here as well. I can also upload a RAR file or zip file, and if I upload that, I can go back here. So let me go into another project that I've already done some uploads here. So I've selected here another project that I've just recently created, screencast demo, and you'll see that there's the Rocket logo RAR file that I've uploaded. So if I click on this and then click extract, I'll be able to get all the files in there, in that archive, extracted to my source directory. So that takes a few seconds to happen, and once it's done I can click refresh, and you'll see that all the source files that were in that archive are now extracted in here for me to use. So that's how you get your source files set up. Again, this is a simple way to get all your source files into one directory. We have a lot more advanced ways to get source files that map to your existing structure. So if you have complex projects with a lot of different directories and network locations and that sort of things, we can handle all of that stuff. We've done that over the years with a lot of different types of projects. This is the quick way so you can get it up and going quickly and just get your shots onto the farm. So let's go to launch render, and we'll select what we need to select in order to get this to render. So what that is the renderer. So Maya Mental Ray is what this demonstration is built in. Source project, we're going to use the screencast demo project that has those extracted files we just saw. We're going to choose a scene file. So here are all the files that were extracted. I'm going to choose this rocket scene main. Automatically would give it a name, but I could change that if I wanted to. Payment methods, I can use existing credits, which I've already purchased and added to my account. I could also, if I had a credit card added to this account, I will see that here. So if I wanted to pay for it with that, I could do that. And I could also do a test render, a free test render. This is one of the features we recently added. Is I can do any number of free test renders. They are watermarked, and I am limited to the number of frames that I can launch at a time, but it's a way to really get some rendering tests done without having concern that you're going to use up your credit balance on your account. So I'm going to use existing credits for now. I can choose what priority to launch them. Pretty much if I need them as quickly as possible, I want to use standard priority. If I have some time and I don't need them, let's say until tomorrow morning, I can choose lower priority. It gives us Okay, so you'll see that your scene analysis was done, and now it's going to show you some render settings. Now I preloaded these settings based on what was set in your file. So a frame range of start 1 to 350 was in this file, incremented by 1. And if I wanted to change that, I could just do that right here. If I want to do 1 through 50, I could change the by value. So if I only wanted to do every 10th frame, I could do that. And I could also change the batch size, which is a way to optimize renders on a render farm. We have some documentation on how to make that more optimized. But if you're unsure, just set it to 1. That's usually the best way to go anyway. We can do advanced mode, which lets you do custom range. So if I wanted to do 1, 2, 3 to 9 and 79, I could do that. But for this example, we're just going to do 1 through 50 by 1. I choose render cameras. These are the cameras that were detected in my scene. Camera shape 1 is the one that we created. This Maya scene has layers, so it shows me various options here for that. I can choose to render a specific layer or multiple layers. If I don't check anything, it will just render whatever is set to be renderable in the file. But in this case, I'm going to confirm that I want to render all 4 layers. I can render them all as one render job, or I can split them into 4 different jobs, which would give me some options in prioritizing some layers over the others. Otherwise, they will all be rendered at the same time. My threading, we'll leave it to 8. That will give you the most amount of processing power in general. We do have options for 4 or less, or even 12. So we can set your account up with that, but for most cases you just want to leave it on 8. Extra parameters, if you know your command line parameters for Maya or whatever software you're using, you can override any settings here. So if I wanted to force the output resolution in Maya to be 640 by 480, I could use those command line parameters there. If I wasn't sure, I could click this cheat sheet link here, and it will show me some of the standard command line parameters for whatever software I have selected. So here's the -X-Y resolution settings for Maya. Okay, so in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put a note for myself. This is a test. And then The really important part is right below here. It'll show you the required files that were detected in your scene. So any textures or caches that were detected in your scene are going to be listed here. So here we see that there is a bunch of files, and one of them is found as missing. So if I knew that this earth mask file was absolutely necessary for this to render, this would alert me that I need to get that up there. So I could either click the upload link here and upload through the web, or I could go back to FTP and drop my file in that way. So it's very important you would check this just to make sure everything is where it needs to be. Some cases it won't detect certain files if you're using third-party plugins, for example, but 95% of the time you'll be able to see what's needed here. All right, so we're ready to go. We're just going to scroll back to the bottom here and click Next. This is what we call our pre-flight stage, where you get to take a look at all the settings to make sure it's all what you want. My name of my render, the renderer, frame range, the increment value, the camera, the layers I selected. Okay, it's warning me again that there is a missing file. I'm going to be okay with that for now. And I could also have it email me an alert when it's done, so I can come back and check it. Although we do recommend that you check your file as it's rendering to make sure there aren't any issues and you're not paying for time that is wasted. So I accept the terms of service and I click Launch. And what happens now is the render will go automatically to our render farm. Okay, so now we'll see the mission detail for a job that was rendered previously, so we can see what happens or what that looks like. So you'll see that the name and the status is done. You'll see that the number of core hours that were used, about 31 credits, were used during the rendering of this job. The average frame time is shown here. Last update, we just opened it. So there was 100 frames in this render, 100 which were completed. On the right, we're looking at the preview image. Now, this one had multiple layers, as we noticed. It's defaulting to the ambient occlusion layer, but if I go back to switch this to the master layer, you'll see that that there are preview images for all the layers, and in the master layer it does have something that's visible. So here's frame 100, and you can click through the frames here. This is a good way to get a quick preview of what's going on with the images. You can do this while the job is rendering as well. So you don't have to download all the completed images to see this, but it does give you a quick preview in case that you see something's wrong. You can catch it along the way. Below here, you'll see that the controls are no longer there, but there's a download panel where you could download the archive file. That's a 100 megabyte file there. That's a compressed archive of all the output images. You'll see all the individual frames here. I can click the logs. So there you go. You see the render log is here, and this is the actual output from the renderer. So if there was any errors or warnings, I believe there is a warning in here due to that one file that was not available. You would see that here. And you could correct it and then requeue the frame. So in this case they're all done, so we can't requeue them, but this is where you would be able to do that during the rendering process. You can also go to the project in FTP. So this one we're looking at project demo January 25. This happens to be an older one, but if we looked at the packages directory here, we would see that zip file that we just saw. And we could also go back into the render directory, and this is where we would see the actual render output for this job. Expand that. And you'll see all the different layers. We'll go into master layer, and you'll see all the target files that were generated from this render. And that's it. That's a quick overview on how to upload, render, and download your files using RenderRocket's Mission Control.